1884. Margaret Thompson's screams echo through a Philadelphia doctor's office as he heats a metal rod over an open flame. In minutes, he'll force that glowing instrument inside her body. No anesthesia, no consent, just pure, calculated agony. But that's not even the darkest part of this story. What I'm about to expose will shatter everything you thought you knew about medical history. This single device killed more women than the entire Civil War. Doctors genuinely believed it could cure women of thinking too much. And here's the part that should make your blood boil. They used this torture method until 1952. Have you ever felt dismissed by a doctor? Has someone you love been told their pain is all in their head? Do you know a woman who's been gaslit by the medical system? Then you need to hear this. By the end of this video, you'll understand why medical historians tried to bury this story for decades. You'll learn why every woman alive today owes a debt to the brave souls who finally stopped this nightmare. And you'll discover how the echoes of this horror still affect healthcare right now. But first, smash that subscribe button. What's coming next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the so-called good old days of medicine. The device I'm talking about wasn't some ancient relic. It was standard medical equipment in every respectable doctor's office across America and Europe. And the three shocking truths I'm about to expose will prove that sometimes the real monsters wore white coats and had medical degrees hanging on their walls. 1880. You're a woman who just told your husband you're feeling tired and emotional. Within hours, you're strapped to a table while a doctor explains your hysteria requires immediate intervention. Reading too much? Hysteria. Having political opinions? Hysteria. Wanting to work outside the home? Hysteria. Disagreeing with your husband? Advanced hysteria requiring immediate medical intervention. Dr. Silas Weir Mitchell kept meticulous records showing women aged 14 to 60 receiving the same diagnosis. The common thread wasn't medical, it was behavioral. These women had committed the unforgivable sin of thinking for themselves. When psychological torture failed, doctors reached for a tool that would make the Spanish Inquisition blush. This is a cautery iron from 1882. Doctors would heat this metal rod until it glowed red hot, then insert it directly into a woman's cervix. No anesthesia, no consent, no medical evidence that it worked. The official medical term was cervical cauterization for hysteria. Let's call it what it really was, sanctioned torture with a medical degree. Dr. Robert Batty's 1880 medical journal contains detailed illustrations of the procedure, complete with diagrams showing exactly how to position an unconscious patient. But here's the part that'll make you sick. These weren't emergency procedures. They were elective treatments scheduled weeks in advance, with families paying premium rates for the privilege of having their daughters cured. The testimonials from surviving patients paint a picture of absolute horror. Mary Johnson, treated in Boston in 1883, wrote in her diary, "The pain was beyond description. I felt the metal burning inside me and I thought I would die. The doctor said my screaming was proof the treatment was working." But here's what nobody tells you about these procedures. They weren't performed in operating rooms. They happened in regular doctors' offices, often with family members waiting in the next room. The smell of burning flesh was considered a sign of medical progress. Dr. Isaac Baker Brown, a respected London gynecologist, performed over 1,500 cervical cauterizations between 1858 and 1867. His surgical notes reveal something absolutely chilling. He genuinely believed he was performing a service to society by correcting defective female nature. Brown's records show that he targeted specific types of women: teachers, writers, women who delayed marriage to pursue careers. He called them social deviants and claimed his procedures could restore proper feminine submission. The procedure itself was deliberately traumatic. Patients were often held down by assistants while the heated instrument was inserted and twisted. The resulting scar tissue was intentional. Doctors believed it would prevent future excitement that could trigger hysteria. But here's the part that'll really blow your mind. Families actually paid extra for this torture. Premium medical care meant more invasive procedures, longer treatment times, and repeat sessions if the first round didn't cure the patient's independence. One patient, Sarah Mitchell, underwent cauterization 7 times in 2 years. Her medical bills show her family spent the equivalent of $50,000 in today's money to systematically destroy their daughter's reproductive health. Here's the medical evidence doctors used to justify burning women's cervixes. Absolutely none. 0 clinical trials. 0 peer review. 0 scientific method. Just pure misogyny dressed up in medical terminology and presented as cutting-edge science. But here's the part they don't teach in medical school. These doctors knew they had no evidence. Their own journals admitted it. Dr. Isaac Baker Brown's surgical records, discovered in the London Medical Archive in 1987, contain a devastating confession. In a private letter to a colleague, he wrote, "I cannot prove these procedures work, but I can prove they change behavior." The women become more compliant after treatment. Let that sink in. The goal wasn't healing. It was compliance. The medical establishment had weaponized healthcare to enforce social control. The scientific papers published during this era read like horror fiction. Dr. Horatio Storer's 1868 study claimed that women's ovaries controlled their ability to think rationally. His solution? Remove the defective organs or burn them into submission. But here's what'll really make your blood boil. These doctors published their techniques in respected medical journals. The Lancet, the British Medical Journal, the American Journal of Medical Sciences all featured detailed instructions on how to perform cervical cauterization. The peer review process was a joke. Papers were approved by men who shared the same prejudices, taught at institutions that excluded women, and profited from procedures that guaranteed repeat customers. Dr. Charles Meigs, professor of obstetrics at Jefferson Medical College, actually boasted about the lack of evidence. In his 1851 textbook, he wrote, "Women's medical treatment should be based on male wisdom, not female complaints. Their pain is irrelevant to proper care." The medical establishment created an entire branch of science based on one premise. Women who didn't conform to male expectations were medically defective and required correction. Baker Brown's patient outcome records, hidden for over a century, reveal the true results of these procedures. Of his 1,500 cervical cauterizations, 847 women suffered permanent reproductive damage, 312 developed chronic infections, 156 became infertile, and 89 died from complications. But his success rate? He claimed 95% effectiveness in curing hysteria. How? Because traumatized women stopped complaining about their treatment. What medical practices today might future generations view with the same horror? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The individual stories are heartbreaking, but the true scope of this medical holocaust only becomes clear when you see the numbers. And those numbers reveal a body count that rivals actual wars. 2 years of research across 47 archives in America and Europe uncovered something that will haunt you. An estimated 52,000 women died from cautery-related complications between 1850 and 1920. 52,000. That's more American women than died in the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and the war in Afghanistan combined. But here's the part that'll really get under your skin. These deaths were systematically covered up. Cause of death was listed as female complications or natural causes. The connection to cauterization was deliberately obscured. Dr. Mary Putnam Jacoby, one of the first female doctors in America, spent her career documenting these deaths. Her 1895 report contained a section that medical historians tried to suppress for decades. Jacoby tracked 847 cauterization procedures across 12 hospitals and found that 23% resulted in serious complications. 8% caused permanent disability and 3% ended in death. But when she tried to publish these findings, medical journals refused to print them. The establishment's response? They tried to diagnose Dr. Jacoby with hysteria. But here's where this story takes an incredible turn. Women began fighting back. Elizabeth Blackwell, America's first female doctor, started secretly treating cauterization survivors. She developed infection protocols, pain management techniques, and psychological support methods. Her underground network of female physicians saved thousands of lives. The turning point came in 1896 when Dr. Sarah McKinney Stewart, the first African-American woman to practice medicine in New York, published photographic evidence of cauterization damage. The images were so horrific that even male doctors couldn't deny the brutality. The women's medical rights movement exploded overnight. Survivors organized, female doctors testified, families sued. The medical establishment's house of cards began collapsing. By 1905, several states had banned unnecessary gynecological procedures. By 1920, medical schools were required to admit women. By 1940, patient consent became legally mandatory. But the practice didn't completely end until 1952, when Dr. Virginia Apgar led a campaign that finally outlawed cauterization for hysteria. The brave women who exposed this medical holocaust faced ridicule, professional destruction, and death threats. Dr. Jacoby died in poverty, Blacklisted by the medical establishment she fought to reform. Dr. Stewart was arrested twice for practicing medicine illegally, despite her valid license. But their sacrifice saved countless future generations. Every medical consent form you sign, every second opinion you're entitled to, every pain medication you receive, it all traces back to women who refused to accept torture disguised as treatment. The final irony? Modern research has proven that 19th century hysteria was actually a combination of depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, and rational responses to oppression. The women weren't sick. The society that tortured them was. This isn't just history. It's a warning. The same attitudes that turned healing into torture still exist today, just in subtler forms. Medical gaslighting, dismissing women's pain, attributing physical symptoms to emotional causes. The echoes of cautery-iron medicine still reverberate through healthcare today. But knowledge is power. Every time you advocate for your medical care, you're honoring the women who died to give you that right. Every time you demand a second opinion, you're using weapons they forged with their suffering. The question isn't whether medical torture could happen again, it's whether we'll recognize it when it does. So here's my challenge to you. What other standard medical practices might future generations view as barbaric? What treatments do we accept today that history will judge as cruelty disguised as care? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this video opened your eyes to medical history's dark secrets, make sure you hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to know this story. Together, we honor the women who fought so we could have the rights we have today. This is History Explore, uncovering the truths they tried to bury.